What are we talking about?
You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it. Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
Can't wait.
Let's go!
Bro, how about that intro? That intro is so fire. That intro is fire. We are back. We are back. This is Sideline to Sideline. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. Directly above me is the man that runs the ones, the twos. It's the prince of production of Sports Empire Network. It's Kyle Edwards. How you feeling, Kyle?
I'm good.
Kyle! I'm just kidding.
It's week 3 already. Tonight's game hopefully is entertaining, but we'll see. Giants coming in with a little bit of issues on their end, but it's football, so I'm here for it. Can't wait to get into it.
We're going to definitely talk about the issues on the Giants end. The Giants' issues are absurd, but we'll talk about that. In the upper right corner, we got the man that we thought would be 2-0 right now, and his Green Bay Packers fumbled the bag. But we're not guarding twos today. We're guarding threes. Brett, guard a three. What's popping, Brett?
Oh, not much. I could be doing better if we would have held on to that one, but young developing team, it is what it is.
Directly next to me is my brother from another. It's the TheEGODFrey. My brother on Birds Deep, taking it back with the Godfrey.
What's up, everyone? We're here to expose who's been a liar week 1 through 2. Because that week 1 through 3 will make you a liar, and will make you a truther. It's either or.
We got a lot to get into as far as the NFL world. So first and foremost, I want to address breaking news that happened today as Cowboys star cornerback Trevon Diggs has torn his ACL in practice, and he will be out for the season. As a Philadelphia Eagles fan, I guess you would expect me to come on here and be happy or be celebrating. That is the exact opposite of what we do in Philadelphia. We want the Dallas Cowboys to be 100% and at full, like we want everybody on the field. We never cheer for injuries. We're not cheering for an injury. Prayers out to Trevon Diggs. I hate to see, one of the game's best corners being lost for the season for an ACL injury. So we'll start off there. Trevon Diggs out for the year. What does that mean for the Dallas defense? And what does that mean for the Dallas defense? Has been number 1 in the NFL right now. Kyle, I'll start with you.
I mean, it's definitely a big loss because when you look at their defense, yeah, you got Michael Parsons and those guys up front, which definitely helped the back end. But when you're dropping back and you're looking at Gilmore on one side, Diggs on the other, it makes you hesitate for a little bit. We know, Diggs when he first started was definitely one of those who liked to take chances and got burned a few times, but I feel like he definitely developed as a corner. And like you said, you hate to see it because he's young, he's a rising star in the league. I mean, he's kind of arrived, I guess you would say, but I feel like Dallas is gonna have to figure it out maybe next couple of games to see, who can fill in that role. They're obviously going to be the one that gets picked on in the secondary. It's just whether or not they just don't give up the big play. If you make teams have to methodically go down the field against that defense, a lot of teams are going to struggle because eventually Parsons is going to get to you or whoever. So I don't know if it completely tanks Dallas' season or anything like that, but it does make it a little bit more difficult now.
Guardy 3, your thoughts on Trevon Diggs?
It definitely hurts, that's for sure. I don't think the Dallas Cowboys necessarily had great secondary depth behind Diggs, so I think the next couple weeks are going to be very telling. You're going to see guys rotated in and out to see who really sticks and who doesn't. But I think I agree with Kyle. It's going to be coming down to finding somebody who's not going to give up the big play. You just You can't get beat because eventually Parsons and that pass rush will hit home. That's front seven will hit home at some point. You just got to make sure you don't get beat before then. So, but this is an absolutely devastating blow for the Dallas Cowboys.
I think that the Dallas Cowboys, and I'll go right to Godfrey after this, but I think the Dallas Cowboys will be fine defensively. I more feel bad for Trevon Diggs. I think the Cowboys defense. You know what the number one thing to help a young or struggling cornerback is? A pass rush, and the Dallas Cowboys have that tenfold. So I think that the Dallas Cowboys defense will be fine. I'm more concerned about Trevon Diggs and his recovery because he is one of the game's just brightest young corners. Godfrey.
Yeah, I think what they're gonna lose is a ball hawk, right? Which is an invaluable asset to have, right? Trevon Diggs is probably more known for interceptions than he is for his coverage, right? He's not a bad corner; he's one of the best, but he also can get beat often. But he also can take a ball to the house. He's a ball hawk, and so when you lose that element, it's tough, right? I don't think they'll be much worse off because they do have a good defensive line. They have a really good defensive coordinator in Dan Quinn. I just don't think they're going to have that sizzle or that playmaking ability from the secondary that they've had with him there. They will lack that, and it will perhaps enable a team with a good offensive line to be more aggressive in the passing game since they're not going to have to worry about that takeaway happening. It can still happen, but his and correct me if I'm wrong here, guys, but him being a ball hawk is really what his skill is, what makes him special.
100%. I completely agree with you. I think that's what makes them special. That's not the point. I think that the defense as a whole will be fine. I think they'll be
Yeah.
good. I think when you have Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence on either side of the ball getting after your quarterback, and I actually really love their secondary as a whole. I think Stephon Gilmore is fine. I love Javon Curse. And Leighton Vander Esch is still on that defense. Malik Hooker's still on that defense. Donovan Wilson's played great. So, I don't think that the Dallas Cowboys will struggle defensively. What I'm more concerned with is how they'll look. How Trayvon Diggs will respond from this. Now, speaking of injuries, we've seen one of the most gruesome injuries on Monday Night Football that you'll ever see, and I'm going to get on this show and let you know I think his career's over. I feel so terrible for the last of a dying breed, Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb suffered a gruesome injury. Um, Man, his knee just came out from right underneath him. Minka Fitzpatrick has to defend himself and not say he's not a dirty player. There was nothing dirty about that hit. If you think that hit was dirty, you're either a Browns fan or a moron.
Yeah,
It
I
was
mean
a dirty hit.
it looked ugly, but it wasn't a dirty hit. If there's a guy though who can come back from it, it would be this guy I would pick. I'm not saying he will. It reminded me of the Willis McGahee injury uh, that he suffered in college. Not the same kind of collision, but similar. And he's one of the all around good guys, hard worker, bring your lunch pail to the job type of running back. And outside of the fantasy football world, one of the best pure runners in football, if not the
Yeah.
best pure runner in football. And it stinks to see that. I know I heard a lot of people's fantasy teams that stinks as well. A lot of people root for him as Browns fans. That stinks as a Browns fan. And I feel for Nick Chubb as a person, because he did come back from a horror. There was not the same knee injury, but the same knee in college, and he came back. And I'm glad that he got paid though. He wasn't one of those running backs that didn't get paid. I'm glad that he got some money because man, he did put his body through a lot.
Got to give him all the credit in the world, though, man. I think that as a whole, he's been one of the best running backs in football, and it sucks to see him go down. The injury was terrible. Kyle, any comments on Nick Chubb?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the worst part of it is, like Godfrey said, he went through this in college, had to fight back from that, got to the point where he was now, where he was in that conversation of best running back in the league. I think he was, some might argue some other players, but he's at least in the conversation. He was on pace to have a really good season. The Browns depend on him a lot as Deshaun Watson's still trying to find his form. Nick Chubb, when you went up against the Browns, he was the constant. You know he was going to perform. And to see it go down the way it did, it was like, yeah, you feel so bad for him. I hope it's not the last image we see of him. You know, him on the ground, clutching his knee, just looking around with the pain on his face. So, you know, he squats 600 pounds. You know, for all we know, he's the Hulk, and he just comes back from this. But
There's one dude that can. It's him.
yeah,
If there's a guy out there that can have that Adrian Peterson type recovery,
Bro, I just hope he doesn't lose his leg.
yeah, that's
that's also
The
true.
artery situation, like I'm not worried about him coming back to football.
yeah, no, for sure. 100 save his leg and he never plays it down again. I'm hoping
Yeah.
he never plays it down again. You know, to save his leg.
So,
So.
what did you guys think about the signing of Kareem Hunt back to the Cleveland Browns? Your thoughts?
Who else is out there?
I mean, I don't necessarily think it's a bad move. Jerome Ford, do you think he'll be the leading back on that team? Do you think Kareem Hunt will take our playoff? Lenny is out there. Leonard Fournette. Cam Akers was on the trade block. They basically got the Minnesota Vikings got Cam Akers for a bag of Doritos.
I wouldn't have gave a bag of Doritos for Cam Akers.
I know you don't like him, bro.
It's not that I don't like him. He hasn't been the same since he tore his Achilles, and he's 22 carries for 29 yards in the game where he had it. He hasn't been the same physically since he got hurt. That's why I think he's not there. Same thing. Think about James Robinson. Remember last year he came back from the Achilles the year before, and then he had that 100-yard game, and then we never heard from him again. Same type of deal. I mean, that you need your burst as a running back, and an Achilles injury is almost impossible to come back from. You know what I mean? It just you lose a tenth of a second off your step, and it could change your whole game as a running back how you hit the hole. I think Jerome Ford was absolutely drafted and groomed for being Chubb's backup in case he misses some time. I think he's the number one back going forward. I think Kareem Hunt is going to fill the Kareem Hunt role that he filled when he was here, when Chubb was here. I don't. They have a really good run system in Cleveland. It's based off that, and another injury that people are kind of glossing over, and I know some people talked about it. Our football heads know about it, and they got to make some adjustments. And this affected Deshaun Watson is you just don't lose to Joe Conklin and just move on. They had a 4th-round draft pick in there taking his place against T.J. Watt. I mean, to understand what you were looking at with your eyes, like that, he's going to eat him for breakfast. And they were trying to talk him up on the Monday Night Football game. It's a good story, but ain't the same as Joe Conklin. That's a big piece to lose on your offensive line. Jerome Ford's a different back than Chubb. You saw the speed. He busted off a nice run against the Browns for a touchdown. The kid's he's got some juice. I would not sleep on Jerome Ford. Do not get it twisted and think Kareem Hunt's going to come in here and beat Kareem Hunt from the Kansas City Chiefs when he was in his heyday. That ain't happening. It's a change of pace back at best.
Yo, look at Jory always shouting out her squad. Jory, I love your Titans love. I got to give all the respect in the world to that. All right, so I kind of wanted to have this little segment here before we preview games, and it's called "Who Were We Wrong About? Who Were We Right About?" And I want you to give a team that you feel like you were wrong about, and a team that you feel like you were spot on, you were dead right about. You can give 2 teams. For me, I should give like 5, dude. I've been wrong about everything the first 2 weeks of the NFL season. I don't think I've ever had a start to the NFL season that I did now. So like there's a bunch, right? So I will reserve the right. I was wrong about a few teams. And I won't take Brett's because I know where Brett's going with this one. And I was wrong about them too. Just be clear. But I was wrong about the Carolina Panthers. I had the Carolina Panthers winning the AFC or NFC South. Bryce Young, I thought, would step into the NFL, and I thought he would have a much bigger impact. I think the Falcons would have been 0-2. They're 2-0. So I've been dead wrong about the Carolina Panthers. I thought Frank Wright would have that team ready, and their offensive line issues are so prevalent on that team, and Bryce Young is still getting acclimated to NFL football. That's not an indictment on his career in the NFL, but I was 100% wrong about the Carolina Panthers. So I'll start with who I was wrong about, and then I'm going to go right to Guardy 3 because I know where he's going. My man, who were you wrong about?
Oh, there's a couple options I can go here. One team is the San Francisco 49ers. the 49ers. I didn't I didn't believe in Brock Purdy. I didn't think the offense would be able to generate enough points, and so far I've been dead wrong about them. But of course, the team I was wrong about the most is the Chicago Bears.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, and even as a Packer fan, I really had expectations that the Bears are going to be fighting for the North this year. I thought they were going to be a team to watch out for. Now we got DJ Moore saying, getting caught on mic'd up, saying that the Bears aren't using him properly. We got the coordinator calling 3 straight screens of the same formation in the red zone. Justin Fields takes 7 business days to process his reads. It's just a complete and utter dumpster fire in Chicago. And it's unfortunate because I really wanted to see Justin Fields succeed. I guess in turn, that means I kind of wanted to see the Bears do something that be better this year. But it's just showing that they just have a culture issue. They're just completely dysfunctional. And that's just reared its ugly head this year. So my team was so wrong about is the Bears.
Well, I gotta say something.
Did you guys hear that?
What's
That's
that?
it's the FBI showing up to the Bears defensive coordinator. That I'm joking. That didn't really happen, but
I don't want to get into that right now, Godfrey. 'cause
that was
we don't
wild.
know- We don't
It's not
know
true,
how
but
accurate that is. So.
no, it's not accurate. It was completely false. Completely false. I mean, I could go into my teams I got wrong or teams.
Well, Godfrey, I was saving you for last because
Okay.
there's a situation that you brought up in our chat that I kind of want to lead into. So, Kyle, who's the team you were wrong about?
I mean, just like you guys, there's a couple I was wrong about. I'd say probably Denver. And look, I fell into the trap with Denver the first year Russ got there. I thought, hey, that great defense, you get a great quarterback. What could go wrong? Well, we thought it was Hackett last season. So then it was they got Sean Payton. It's got to be better. It's not. I mean, last game I could say they looked a little bit better. You know, Russ looked a little better, but it's just that I just don't know what's going on with the team right now. You know, you could say that the last game maybe they got robbed with the PI in the end zone, but it's just like where's the dominance that I thought they might get by getting Russ? So maybe I just overvalued Russ to begin with. You know, as a Patriots fan, I did like seeing Russ in Seattle, so I assumed he was what they were missing, and I just don't know what's going on with Denver right now. I don't want to think that Russ is cooked, but we might have to start having that conversation.
Let Russ cook, right, man? We'll talk about teams we're right about in a second. But Godfrey, you mentioned earlier that weeks 1 through 3 will make you a liar. So I wanted to pass the buck to you. You can give me a right and a wrong. You're on the clock, and you can let us know about your week 1 through 3 rule that you talked about in the chat.
So I mean, I wanted to bring up the Bears, but there's a couple more I could bring up. The Bears, I just want to touch on really quick, though. The Bears, listen, man, there's one stat that's alarming. 4 design runs for Justin Fields through the first 2 weeks. 4 design runs for a kid that has the wheels and has an arm. And if you're looking at as Jalen Hurts as the blueprint of how you build a quarterback like that, they're definitely not doing it. It's definitely a coaching issue there. And I was wrong about the Bears because I thought maybe they had that down pat, and there is nothing but instability going on there. And they're proven to be a poverty franchise once again because they're going to ruin this kid, Justin Fields. I don't think it's lack of ability. I think it's coaching. It's scheme. Team I was wrong on, I thought they'd be a little bit better, was the Lions. I think the Lions made a mistake in the draft, and I don't think Gibbs is a bad player. Not a big college guy, but I don't think anybody knew who he was before he was on Alabama. I believe he was at Wake Forest or Georgia Tech, one of the two. I can't remember. And I don't think he's a bad player. But for you to trade DeAndre Swift, which you could say, let's say they're equal in ability, move back to 12, and what you really should have done was take Jalen Carter or Tyree Wilson in that position and solidify your defensive line. You didn't do that. You took a guy that you are going to use primarily on passing downs because it looks like that's a philosophy with their 2-back system that they have in Detroit. And, you said, hey, you know what? We're going to double down. We like this guy and trade back. And I just don't think the Lions as an organization are ready to win. I don't think it's there. I'm sorry. After watching that game on Sunday, I thought that would be a game that they should take at home. They didn't. I think the Chiefs were reeling from some things going on in house. I think they barely escaped that game. Everybody was enamored with them. I don't think they're winning the division. I think that division is up for grabs, and I was wrong about the Lions. Um, you know, the
Well, give us the team you were right about, and give us the team you were right about. Somebody you were dead spot on about.
Yeah, I guess it could be negative or positive. Team I was dead spot on about, I feel, is the Chargers. I just feel like,
You're right.
I just feel like they were a dead team walking. Staley stinks. Herbert, I don't know. He could have some deficiencies, but he's not the type of coach that's going to up his game and challenge him. And the guy's got to go. I think Kellen Moore is going to be the head coach before the first 4 games of the season. You're starting out 0-2 in a tough AFC. I thought the Chargers with the talent would be able to overcome that to a certain extent, and they're just not able to close games out. I mean, losing 2 close games in a row like that. I mean, come on, guys. It's bad. I mean, you got your quarterback, you just paid him. What are they doing over there in LA? I was wrong about the Rams too.
The comments are coming in. Godfrey, you're frozen. You've been frozen for a little while.
I am.
Take your background off. Maybe that will help out. But the comments are coming in. Godfrey has a serious poker face. You shall not pass. He's frozen. So I just wanted to kind of comment on that. But I think a lot of the things that you said were accurate. Let me tell you a team I was right about, 100% right about, the New York Giants. I told you the New York Giants would be a dumpster fire this year. They're going to be a dumpster fire. They barely beat a team that's actively trying to lose. And that is a perfect lead-in to Thursday Night Football. So I was 100% right about the New York Giants. I said they would finish last in the division. I've also been right about the Washington Commanders. I said Eric Bieniemy would get that offense rolling. I said that they would finish third in the NFC East and be much better than the New York Giants. I don't think anyone's arguing with me about that now. I've been dead right about the Green Bay Packers. I said the Green Bay Packers would be much better than people are giving them credit for. I said that defense was very good. Jordan Love would take a step forward. So I've been right about a few teams. Now, I've been wrong about the Rams. The Rams look absolutely way better than I expected. Puka Nacua, I knew he was good, but I didn't think he was that good. My man has been on fire. Now, one thing I will tell people to watch out for with Puka is Puka always is on the injured list. There's never a week that man will not be on the injured list. He has ankle issues all for days. He had him at BYU. But I've been right about a few teams in the NFL, but not as many teams as I've been wrong about. Guardy 3, who have you been right about? What team were you spot on about so far?
Man, I was going to say the Giants, but you took that one from me. So another team that I was accurate about that I thought would really struggle and I was pretty spot on about was the Vikings. I thought the Vikings were going to get plagued by a bad defense, and they weren't going to have a run game to support the pass game. You're going to put in too much on Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins is going to turn the ball over at crucial times. The only thing I missed is I didn't expect everybody else to turn the ball over at crucial times like we saw against the Eagles. Those fumbles were just insane at that point. But no, I thought the Vikings were going to struggle, and Cam Akers definitely is not going to be the answer, and I think it's going to be a long season in Minnesota. I think Kirk Cousins is going to put up top 5 QB numbers, statistically speaking, because they're always going to be behind. They're always going to be passing the ball. And a part of that's going to be because the run game is just going to be non-existent all year.
Bro, what do you think about a trade of the Minnesota Vikings trading Kirk Cousins to the New York Jets for a third-round draft pick? This is the last year of the Cousins contract. He probably will not be re-signed. The Jets obviously need a quarterback. It seems like a perfect fit. A third-round draft pick seems like it would get it done. I think who says no to that trade?
I like it. I think that's something that the Jets should look into. Because a lot of people blast Cousins, but Cousins has been a really good QB. Like last year, he was really good, and the only reason that they were in that playoff game for as long as they were was because of Cousins. Everybody remembers the 3-yard check down on 4th and 8, but if it wasn't for Cousins going nuts, that defense would have given that game away a long time before that. So I'm actually much higher on Kirk Cousins than a lot of people, and I think that would be a phenomenal trade for the Jets, and it wins for both sides.
I think it's a win for both sides. Kyle, who were you right about? And if you want to touch on the Kirk Cousins trade to the New York Jets, I think that's a trade for both teams. I don't know why either team would say no to that. I'll tell you what right now.
I agree.
We're going to talk about the game, the Vikings and Chargers, in a little bit,
Mhm.
but the loser of that game is going to have some serious changes that happen by Wednesday next week. This time next week, we'll be talking about either Brandon Staley being fired or Kirk Cousins possibly being traded.
I mean, look, as a Patriots fan, I can't endorse Kirk Cousins in New York because that would show that they know what they're doing, and he'd be somebody that Jets fans could be confident in. I don't want that. I want him to try the Zach Wilson experience and then be mad at the end of the year that it didn't work. That's what I want. But like Brett said, I'm high on Kirk Cousins. I have always been. If you look at his numbers, he's really good. It's just a primetime thing. But I can be honest, that Thursday against the Eagles, he put up some numbers. So maybe it's a little different now. But yeah, if the Jets did that, then yeah, I'd probably have to change my opinion on them in terms of the division and playoffs. Now, the team I was right about, I kind of told people that Baker Mayfield in Tampa would be better than people thought. And so far through 2 games, he's been pretty good. And if you look at Baker Mayfield, I feel like he's a guy that he needs people doubting him. He needs people counting him out for him to perform at his best. You know, he's one of those guys that just needs that chip on his shoulder. He used it in college by walking on at Oklahoma and then doing his thing. Most people didn't think he was going to win the job, even though I thought that was a joke, the whole Kyle Trask thing. But
About trash.
I mean, I thought it was hilarious that they were like, "Oh, we haven't decided our starting quarterback." Yes, you have. You brought Baker Mayfield in. It's clearly going to be him, and I think he's really performing well. So that's the team I would say I was right about.
That would tie into my rule when Gene has me talk about that. I'm not frozen anymore, guys. Right?
No, you're
you
good. You look good.
All right, cool.
Good looking fella. Lee Godfrey is back.
Yeah.
Well, talk about what you need to talk about because we're going to go into previews next, man, and we'll talk about some division winners afterwards. But let's go into previews after whatever you need to get off your chest.
So week 1 through 3, always remember. I mean, yeah, teams. There's not a real preseason anymore. Teams are figuring things out. They're 2-0. They're 1-1. They're 0-2. You always hear that stat. The percentage is low if you start at 0-2, and I just think that's a compiled stat that also dumps in different areas of football, right, where there was a lot less parity going on. So it's not really a valid stat, in my opinion. But think about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who we just talked about. I'm going to take you back to 2, 3, 4 years ago. Had some similar people that are on the team now. Those people, remember Ryan Fitzpatrick, 2-0 to start the season, beat the Eagles, beat the Saints. They were going to go on and win that division, and I think they finished 5-11. Okay.
First of all, when you say his name, it's Fitzmagic.
Fitzmagic.
It's Fitzmagic.
Yes, he did. He
Put
put
some
a magic
respect
trick
on that man's name.
and disappeared after week 3. So I mean,
I got
that's
to give Fitzmagic credit, man. He's played everywhere, and he's had some really good runs with different.
yes, he's a baller. But yeah, weeks 1 through 3 will make you a liar. They might make you truthful. I mean, there are going to be teams out there like I knew they were good. But I'm telling you, it's week 4 and after where you really start to see like, all right, these are who these teams are. There's going to be some correction on certain teams. I can't tell you who. You guys tell us, we tell you, and we'll see who's right. And we'll meet back here in week 4. But I'm telling you, we'll make you a liar.
Let's get into previews. Tonight we got the New York Football Giants going to the San Francisco 49ers. I think this game should be a whitewash. I think this game should be a layup for the San Francisco 49ers. And I never say that about NFL football games. But, like, everything lines up. The 49ers didn't play great last week versus the Rams. They got to stay at home. They got the short week versus the East Coast team that coming off the emotional high of a comeback win over Arizona. I think they stayed out west. I don't think they traveled back home. The Giants are missing their best player in Saquon Barkley. I think this is it's like a perfect storm. Now, Brandon Ayuk isn't playing. I don't think that matters too much. Does anybody besides me think that this is a 49ers route?
I think this should easily be 49ers by at least 2 touchdowns, but I'm sure just because we're saying that, the Giants will somehow keep it within a touchdown.
Anybody have the Giants covering the 10-point spread?
Uh, yeah, I don't. I mean, I listen, man. From a better's perspective, and you probably will say
Your
this, Gene. You
timer's
know,
off.
yeah, no, it's. I turned it off briefly to let my aging dog out, and
Oh,
this software is not being fun. But
sorry.
that being said, I do think when there's a double digit spread, it always makes me nervous of a backdoor cover because I see a blowout and then see garbage points at the end. You know what I mean? Like you talked even last week, or Gene, we talked about Thursday night. The Vikings covered at 6. It was 6.5, right? So I
I
mean,
called that. I said it perfectly.
you
I said
did.
the Eagles would be covering the entire game. Um, the Vikings would score a last second touchdown, miss the onside kick, and the Eagles would win the football game. I called it. Can we talk about how John sucks? Put that comment back up there. My guy, I don't know if you need to use Google, but that is the worst spelling of Eric Bieniemy I've ever seen in my entire life. We'll give him credit when we get into Eric. Dude, you couldn't even get Eric right. It's not. He spells it the normal way how you spell Eric. What is that? Erik Benihana. Like that's what it looks like. Come on, John. Come on. You got to be kidding me. Sorry, but let's get into I let's give score predictions for the game because it is Thursday night football. I have it 49ers 27, Giants 10. I think they'll win by 17. I don't think the game will be that close. I think it'll go under the total. I think the 49ers defense is too good. I think Daniel Jones will be running for his life with no running back. So I got 27-10 49ers. Kyle, do you want to give us a score?
I'm gonna go. I mean, I do like that score there. I mean, we'll say the Niners get to 30, and I'll give the Giants a little bit more. Let's go 30-13.
Okay. Guard a what?
Hey, guard to 3. Hey, listen, here's what I got to say because I think we're giving the Giants too much credit tonight. I think they score 6. I think they get 2 field goals, but I think this is just a slaughter all night. So I think then a final score ends up being 27-6. I don't even think they reach 7.
Okay.
Wow. I'm kidding. I think that the Los Angeles Rams gave the blueprint on how to attack that 49ers defense, and it's with a lot of drag routes. The 49ers love playing matchup zone, and they play a lot of man on the outside, and drag routes are Puka Nacua was running drags all day. I think the 49ers dominate tonight. Well, let's get into some good matchups this week. I want to talk about this one first. I hope Jory's in the comments still. The Tennessee Titans are going against the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland's a 3-point favorite in the football game. I don't know what's going on with Godfrey, man. His connection. I think he's using a cup and a string. But we'll start with Guardy 3. Guardy 3, how do you like the game? Tennessee versus Cleveland in Cleveland.
I think it should be a fun back and forth game to watch. I think this one will be close. I think what it'll come down to is the Tennessee Titans play calling. In the first half of last week's game, or at least in the first quarter, they didn't really use Derrick Henry as much as they should have. The backup had more carries on him, and the offense sputtered. But as soon as they started using him, that's when the offense started to click. So I have the Titans winning this one in a really close 17-14 game, and I think the X factor will just end up being, will the offensive coordinator of Tennessee just come out right away and establish Derrick Henry? And I think if they do that, they win this football game.
That's not the defensive line I want to establish Derrick Henry against. I don't think they will. I'll give you my prediction. I think the Cleveland Browns win this game. I think it's Deshaun Watson coming out party. I think it's a surprisingly high scoring. Whichever one's predicting the under, I think you'll get a totally different game. I have the Browns win this one 31-20 over the Titans, and I think this is the Deshaun Watson party. I think Deshaun Watson uses his legs to extend the play. I think Tennessee severely lacks pass rush. I think they're great against the run. I think their secondary is good, but the way you can really beat Tennessee is extending the play. And I think that's what Deshaun Watson can do. I like the Browns in this one. They're actually one of my favorite plays this week. Give me the Browns 31 and the Titans 20. Kyle?
I can see what you're saying because I think now with obviously the Chubb and everything like that happening, Cleveland needs Watson now more than ever. And I think this is a game where he's going to really try to prove some things. So I guess the way that this game's going to sway is whether or not you believe Watson plays better or not. Because Tennessee defensively, yeah, they're going to give them some trouble. I think I'm going to go with Cleveland in this one in a close game because I feel like Tennessee's been playing a lot of teams close. And we know with Vrabel that he's going to have them ready to go, and they're not going to just get blown out by many teams. So I would say probably like a 24-20 type of game for Cleveland.
Godfrey, who you got in this one? Welcome back, by the way.
Yeah, sorry about that.
You're good,
Oh,
bro.
my mic's working now. Great, awesome. So I got Cleveland here. I think a lot of people listen. We're not talking about Deshaun Watson, the human here, right? We're talking about the football player.
Correct.
And I think I see national broadcasters like that guy Nick Wright from I don't know where he's at. Like they're just jumping off on him right now because they want to hate him. And that's okay if they want to do that. But he did play a defense where TJ Watt was going up against a rookie left tackle. And listen, he wasn't the greatest, but they're talking about like his career's over. Like, oh, he's done. You may want him to be done, but he's not. And I agree with Kyle. This is where he has to step up. He didn't look god awful. If you watch the whole game, he didn't look great. There was a couple freak plays. It's not like he was throwing
the interception wasn't on him either. It was directly off a receiver's hands.
Directly.
Yeah.
And you got to keep your emotions out of this. I'm going to take the Browns. I think the Browns are going to beat them. I think the Browns have a good defense. I think they're going to be emotionally charged up after what they went through last week, and they're going to whoop ass. They got a better defense than people thought they had. And they really, if you look at that game with honesty, and you're not a Steelers fan, because I know you won't, you take away the 2 defensive touchdowns, they kicked your ass. I mean, it's unfortunate how it worked, and they lost. They got the L. They deserved the L. The Steelers deserved to win. But without TJ Watt stripping that ball on that Alex Highsmith pick 6, you didn't do shit against them. They won.
I'll be honest with you too. That missed PI on the wide receiver, and at minimum on
Awful.
DJ, that's a hold. At minimum,
you know me. I like to say, hey man, they would have called that on James Bradbury in the Super Bowl.
100%.
I'm just saying.
So we got it. We're kind of a little bit behind right now. Let's get moving. I want to pause on a couple really big games this week. We got to talk about Atlanta, Detroit. Atlanta's 2-0. Desmond Ritter still stinks. I don't like. I've watched the Atlanta Falcons play, and it's mind-boggling how they're 2-0. I think they're the worst 2-0 team I might have ever seen in my life. And I hate saying it that way. Like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Atlanta, but like, just look at the statistics on Desmond Ritter the first 2 weeks of the season. I don't think he's good at all. Brett will tell you, man. He's 19 of 32 this past week. He really featured Drake London finally. Drake London had like 8 targets in that game. But I think Green Bay allowed them to stay in that football game when they were up. And I think they could have put their foot on their throat, and they didn't. I was really disappointed in how A.J. Dillon ran the ball. He looks really slow. I mean, he always looks slow, but, dude, he looks really slow. And as a whole, I felt like they kept giving Atlanta opportunities to get back in that football game. The one thing I will say is I think that Atlanta Falcons secondary is much better than we gave it credit for. I think the addition of Jesse Bates added with A.J. Terrell has really shown – I think they've done a great job in the secondary of Atlanta. Mm-hmm. In this game, I think that I'm taking the Lions here to one of my favorite plays this week. Also, I like the Lions to bounce back at home. I think they're a much better football team. Bijan Robinson has looked good. He's made a lot of people miss. He's second in the NFL in rushing right now. But I think Detroit is very game with Jack Campbell, Aiden Hutchinson, and that front 7 to slow down the run. So I got Detroit in this one. Guardy 3, I want to go right to you because your Packers played them last week. What are your thoughts?
I got Detroit on this one. Listen, yeah, the Packers gave them way too many chances this past week to get back into the game, and they took advantage of it. Desmond Ritter did not look good. I agree with that because if you remember, there's 2 passes he threw in that game that should have been easy interceptions that were just straight dropped. He threw that route, which if Jair catches that should have been 6 the other way. And then Quay should have had a second interception of the year. So it was a perfect storm because Green Bay tends to only play with really two big D linemen in Devontae White and Kenny Clark, and that's all they have, and that's a perfect way to give up a lot of yards against the run. So I think Detroit's going to come in. They're going to have much bigger bodies. They're going to be able to stand up against the run better, and they're going to make Desmond Ridder pass, and that's a recipe for disaster because he's going to make a lot of mistakes, and we saw that last week. This past weekend, he wasn't good. So I'm going to go with Detroit here, and I think they're going to beat them by 10.
Ooh.
Godfrey.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Detroit here. The Falcons are not a good road team. They play different at home. The Lions play better at home, even though they lost last week. Their offense seems to kick up at home. Jared Goff has some alarming home road splits if you look at the stats, and I think they're going to bounce back and win. I do think that there's some things that are elements to Atlanta that's fugazi about their 2-0 record. I got a text from Desmond Ridder myself, Gene. I don't know about you. I heard him and Brock Purdy are friends, but
Jesus.
Listen. I think the Lions are going to right the ship here. I still think they're a bad organization, and like last week illustrated that to me. But we'll see it play out. I mean, you're going to see a bunch of Craig Reynolds. I think you might even see Zonovan Knight get in. And Jahmyr Gibbs will definitely get touches, but I don't think they're going to increase his touches. I know people think that. I'm saying right now, I don't think so.
You think the whole year they just drafted him in the first round, they're not going to increase his touches?
I think they're not going to run him up the middle. They're going to just have him as an outside back. I think that was the plan all along. That's why they signed David Montgomery. That's why I think it was a bad draft pick.
Completely disagree.
We'll see. I mean, listen.
I think they're doing exactly what you should do with a rookie running back that's not great in run and pass protection.
Well, I agree there. You should always do that.
Getting him. I think that David Montgomery is a pro's pro, just like Jamal Williams was. I think you'll see more and more Jahmyr Gibbs every week of the season. I think you've seen more of him in week 2 than you've seen him in week 1. And I think that you'll end up seeing more of him in week 3 than you've seen in week 2. And if you think that Craig Reynolds is going to get more play than him this week, you're out of your mind. David Montgomery's not going to play. So Reynolds.
I'm not saying he's going to get more play. I'm saying he's going to get those touches in between the tackles. Don't be surprised, man.
I think that Jahmyr Gibbs will have 15 to 18 carries this week with 5 to 6 receptions. I think that the Detroit Lions win the football game. Kyle, who do you have in this one?
Yeah, the Lions as well. I think it's very simple going against the Falcons. You gear up for the run, and you force Desmond Ridder to beat you. And until he does that, I think every team should do that. Robinson and Algier are a great running back duo, but like Godfrey said, I've seen this Atlanta team the past few years. When they go on the road, they play way different. So I'm expecting them to take a big step back, and I think Detroit wins this one by over a touchdown.
There's too many good football stories. We got to move forward. The New Orleans Saints are playing at the Green Bay Packers. I normally wouldn't go into this football game, 2 1-1 teams that probably have no Super Bowl aspirations. However, I got my man Gardy 3 on this show, and I'm not going to pass over his Green Bay Packers. I'll give you a quick prediction on this, and I'll leave the rest of the time to Gardy 3. We can all give a quick prediction. I got the Packers winning this one. I think that if the Atlanta Falcons aren't the worst 2-0 team in football, I think the Saints are right behind them. I think the Green Bay Packers are the better football team. They're playing at home. Jordan Love looks good. They should be getting Christian Watson and Aaron Jones back this week. I like the Packers in this one. Give me the Packers 27-20. Give a quick prediction, Kyle, and then
I'm going to take the Saints. Listen. Jameis Winston went in there last year. Remember that on the road, Juwan Johnson, all that. I don't know what it is, and I just think the Saints have a good veteran D. I think it's going to be a close game. I wouldn't bet this game. I'm going to stay away from it, but I'm just saying if we're going off points, I'm going to go to Saints.
Okay.
I'll go Packers, but I do think it'll be tough on them, and I still like what I'm seeing from Love and the Packers. I think they bounce back at home, so give me the Packers.
Yeah, this one I think the big key for the Saints just kind of went out the window. I think obviously to beat the Packers, you got to run the ball down their throats, and now they won't have Kamara or Jamal Williams this week, so I think that's going to be tough for them. I got the Packers, but I do think it's going to be a fight. That is a veteran defense. I think they'll make it a little tougher, but if Aaron Jones comes back, Christian Watson, David Bakhtiari is always questionable, but I think he'll play this week. There hasn't anybody report saying he's out. I got the Packers, and I think they're gonna try to run it, but they won't have the backs to be able to, and I don't think the pass game's gonna have enough juice to overcome that. So I'll take the Packers 21-17.
I think we all agree that the Miami Dolphins will be beating the Denver Broncos this week. I said it last week. If the Denver Broncos lost at home to the Washington Commanders, it's Broncos country, last ride. Anyone disagree on that one? Anyone want to lay a point out before we move on to the next game?
Man, I agree with you, but I do think that it's interesting when teams have to play from a desperation side, and you know, eh, on the road that's going to be tough. I kind of agree with you.
Well, I want to get into. I'm going to leave the best 1 o'clock game to the end. We're going to get to it. The New England Patriots are going against the New York Jets. Zach Wilson, Mac Jones. I don't want to put Mac Jones in the same sentence as Zach Wilson. The Patriots are 0-2. They could start 0-3. I think that Jets defense causes a lot of problems for the New England Patriots this week. And I love the under in this game. I don't know how to pick the game. I think it's 9-6 at halftime. I think it'll be a terrible football game as far as watching. I think this will be a very low scoring game. Give me the Jets to win this one 17-12. I don't like this game at all. I think that the Jets will get Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook involved in running the football. Dude, how good is Garrett Wilson? He was absolutely cooking and was wide open on so many of those plays. And I don't want to talk about Trevon Diggs because he just took an injury, but man, there's so many routes where he cooks Trevon Diggs and is wide open, and Zach Wilson just throws a terrible ball.
Yeah, I mean, I can't pick against my team, but I do think where the game's going to be fun is seeing the defensive battle between both teams and which offense can figure out the opposing defense first. I obviously would put more stock in the Patriots offense because I think Mac Jones is clearly better at the position than Zach Wilson. I do want to see them get their running game going. That's been troubling to me. Between Stevenson and Zeke, one of them has to get off in this game. But I'll stick with the Patriots in this one.
That's a thing I want to bring up real quick, and it has nothing to do with the run game. It has all to do with the fact that, guys, I used it as my "you got to be kidding me" last night, and I'm going to say it again today. Can anybody explain to me why that call was overturned with Cole Strange? It seemed clear as day that he got the first down when he got it. They called it as the first down, and then they overturned it. That's one of those plays that if they called them short, I don't think there was enough to overturn it. But then if they give them the first down, how in the world was that call overturned?
The guy that they had in the booth with them, it was like, if you look at his elbow, it went down here, which means the ball is here. But I saw a bunch of bodies in the way, and I don't feel like you could really tell where the ball was. And I agree with you. I feel like if they called it a first down, they kind of had to stick with that one. But, it is what it is. I wanted Strange to get it. Though. It was, yeah. And for Cole Strange with the wherewithal of an offensive lineman, he tried to truck over some guys. Yeah. And I can't remember who the defender was that was kind of tugging at the ball that did obviously make Strange go down to the ground before he probably wanted to. But, quick thinking by Gesicki for sure.
Guardy 3, who do you like in the game? We'll be quick here.
I got the Patriots 16-10. It's going to be low scoring, and I think the difference is I just flat out don't like the combination of Zach Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett on offense. I think that's the recipe for the worst offense that we've ever seen in a long while. And the only thing that's carrying them are the fact that they have extremely good playmakers.
If you thought Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett were bad, hold my beer. B. Godfrey, who you like in this one?
I like the Pats. Aren't they 0-14 against the Jets? I mean, 14-0 against the Jets in the last so many games. Zach Wilson's 0-4. The one thing about Nathaniel Hackett is he's not good at getting a young quarterback or inexperienced quarterback prepared. We see he's not a preparation guy. He was brought in there purely because his guy was Aaron Rodgers. 100%. And here's the thing. If I was the Jets, I would be trading for a veteran quarterback that's going to need minimal prep because they're not going to be able to do that. They're not in a position where they could pick someone off, the trash heap and coach them up. Like it's you don't have that coaching system in place, so Nathaniel can't hack it. I'm sorry, man. Unfortunately, the Jets are going to lose, and the Patriots are not going to go on 3. I think that would be the first time under the Belichick era that it would happen.
I'm glad that Nathaniel Hackett can coach up MVP caliber Aaron Rodgers. That's fantastic. What a great offensive coordinator he is.
Two games we completely have to skip: Houston at Jacksonville, Indy at Baltimore. I think both home teams win that, Jacksonville and Baltimore. Let's get into Buffalo at Washington. 1-1 Buffalo at 2-0 Washington. I think Buffalo wins this football game. But before I get too far into this, I'm telling you, Bad Josh will come out Sunday. That Washington Commanders defensive line with Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, Chase Young, they're killers. And I'm telling you right now, they're going to get after them, and Josh is going to make some bad plays in this one. I think the game's closer than the score will end up indicating. I think the Bills do enough to get the game done, to win the football game. But be on the lookout for this one. Bad Josh will be there. Kyle, I know you're a Bad Josh fan.
I am. I've seen Bad Josh enough. I think the key might be if Washington can score first, that's definitely going to help them because I think that pressure will really get to Josh Allen. And when he's down, he'll feel like he needs to make he feels like he needs to take those chances a little bit more. So I feel like if they score early, they'll be fine. And I agree with you. I do think Buffalo wins it, but for Bills Mafia, they're going to be clutching at their chest. It's going to be another heartbreak. Well, not heartbreak, but another heart attack type game for them.
Guardy 3.
You know what? I'm going to go with a Washington upset on this one. I think we're going to have ourselves a game, and that's my issue. I think bad Josh Allen is going to come out. I think the pass rush in Washington's going to get to him. They're going to try to make him take a check down, except Josh Allen doesn't do no check downs. So guess what? We're going to see a lot of bad throws off the back foot, on the run, just way down the field. It doesn't matter if it's single cover, double cover, triple cover, don't matter. So I think that it's going to be a dogfight the entire way. But I think that Josh Allen is going to throw a timely pick. I think he's going to throw 3 on Sunday, and they're going to lose this football game.
Can we give can we give Eric Bieniemy and Sam Howell some credit, man? Because that Washington Commanders team was down 21-3 at halftime. And yes, the defense did pick them up with a turnover, but they scored 28 points in the second half of that football game and won that game. And I want to give Eric Bieniemy credit any chance I get.
Yeah.
Godfrey, who you like in this one?
Man, the Commanders are getting 6.5 points at home.
Yep, they are.
I mean, that's huge.
It
For
is.
a 2-0 team, I'm taking that points, and I'm putting money on the money line because I think they're going to cover. I do think that pass rush is going to get after it. I think they had 7 sacks against the Broncos last week, if I'm not mistaken. 7 sacks, right?
Yep.
They gave up more sacks, the Broncos did, than the Cardinals did. Think about that for a second. 7 sacks. I think Bieniemy's doing some stuff there. And I think Josh Allen on the road isn't going to be as good. I mean, they might still win, but if they do, it's by a nut hair. And I'm going to go with the Commanders here.
All right, so I kind of took the time so we can take our time on a couple of games that are coming up. I think there's 2 games I really want to 3 games I really want to sink my teeth into. But the one game I really want to talk about in the 1 o'clock hour is the Los Angeles Chargers at the Minnesota Vikings. I think we're all prepped to talk about this one. I'm gonna start with this statement that I made last night. I'm gonna piss off Shallcross again, and I'm gonna say this statement again. Look, the Chargers defense has been bad. The coach has been bad. Brandon Staley has been bad. But everyone wants to put Justin Herbert as a top 5 quarterback. And 2 weeks in a row, he's had the ball in his hands with a chance to win the game 3 different times and has failed to do so. I think, once again, Minnesota, LA, they're going to have a situation in which Justin Herbert's going to have a chance to win the game, and will Minnesota collapse? I think both these teams need to get out of their own way. I don't know who I'm picking in the football game. Flip a coin. Both these teams are like actively getting in their own way. I think it's a great football game to watch. I think it'll be interesting to break down. Godfrey, we'll start with you. Who do you like? Chargers at Vikings.
I like the Chargers. I just think, outside of Justin Jefferson, man, it's such a hard game to pick. Stanley's such a dope. I just, it's just, I don't know, man. It's like trying to, they both stink. The spread, what's the spread? My screen flickered on me. What's
1.5.
And it's the Vikings are favored by 1.5, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to change. I'm going to go with the Vikings. I mean, on the road, I don't see the ability from Brandon Staley to get his team up for key moments. I don't see him being able to coach them, and get them prepared for a specific situation. And I think being at home and, you got a veteran quarterback on the other side, Kirk Cousins with Justin Jefferson. The problem is you could run on the Chargers, but who? I guess let's see if Cam Akers, maybe he has a resurrection and newly minted Minnesota Viking goes wild on those guys, and he did last year, right toward the end of the season. So we'll see what happens here, but I'm gonna go Vikings just because they're at home. I mean, both these teams are bad, but Justin Herbert, man, I think he's got a lot of potential. I feel bad for the kid. He's definitely come up short in certain areas. But I said something on the chat in your show, and I didn't really get to extrapolate it. I feel that, listen, Brandon Staley has done more to take away opportunities from this kid to be able to perform in the clutch than he's been able to do. Like the Chiefs games are the ones that come to mind. The management of the game at the end of the year that ended up putting the Raiders in the playoffs, right? Like there's just so many gaffes here by this guy, Brandon Staley, about getting it done in crunch time. I believe the loss to the Texans the one year, right, where they wouldn't even had to be in that position to play the Raiders to get into the playoffs. It just screams ineptness, and I feel like there's a layer here that people aren't thinking of. I don't think Kellen Moore is going to come there to help him, and he's not going to hurt him. He knows that's his job, and I've seen this before in other coaching situations. That's not a guy that they're bringing in where he's not looking over his shoulder. Trust me, that is Kellen Moore's job, and it might even be his job this year. So I'm going Vikings.
Okay. Guardy 3.
Man, this is going to be a fun one. If you're a fan of defense, don't watch this game. This is probably going to be the highest scoring game of the week. This is going to be an absolute shootout. I see this game going two ways, and it's going to be pivotal that the Chargers get ahead and stay ahead. If this comes down to a coaching decision, I will always bet against Brandon Staley, and I will win 90% of the time. But I think the Chargers get ahead and they stay ahead. I'm going to take the Chargers. I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game. I'm thinking in the realm of 35-30. I think both teams get over 30, and we're going to have questions if Kirk Cousins is still a Viking by the end of week 4.
See, that's the fun part. After Kyle gives his winner, Kyle, who do you have in this one?
Well, I like the Vikings, and just quickly, it's like what Brett said. The Chargers are really good at running the ball. I think they're like top 5 in the league, and the Vikings are bottom 5 against the run. But the Vikings are second in passing, and the Chargers are dead last against the pass. So I think yardage will be had, points will be scored, but I'll go with the Vikings because I do think because of that passing game, maybe they have the ball last and they just win it that way. But yeah, I'll go with Minnesota.
Sneaky over is 53.5.
So here's my question. What happens on Monday, Tuesday, if the Vikings win and the Chargers lose? Is Brandon Staley fired?
I don't think there's any question he should be fired.
You know
I'm not
why?
saying that he should be fired.
I'm
asking, is he fired?
No, because the Spanos suck. They're a bad organization, and they're a bad ownership group, and they always have been. So he's not going to be fired. He should be, and I think they might wait like another game. They're cheap. They don't like wasting money. They're like the Bengals.
Not wasting money, though. It's the last year of his contract.
Staley's?
Yeah.
Then he might be fired. Yeah, I see that. Sure. Kellen Moore was brought there because they wanted a coach that could get the most out of Justin Herbert. I'm telling you, that's why they brought him there. They got rid of their offensive coordinator. Why else would you bring this guy there? There's no other reason.
So my next question is, if the Vikings lose the football game, is Kirk Cousins still on the team next week? He's in the last year of his contract. Do they throw in the white towel? Let's just say the Lions win, they're 2-1. The Packers win, they're 2-1. You got the Vikings sitting in the cellar 0-3. I mean, the question I would ask would be is Kirk Cousins still on the roster for week 4 if they're 0-3?
I'll say he is. I feel like maybe it's something where, because I think there's so much attention to their running game and how it's failed them, maybe he'll get a pass if they lose in the sense that we think like a shootout. Maybe Herbert has the ball last and they just score, and Cousins still has a good game. I don't know. I just think it'd be a mistake for Minnesota to necessarily give up on Cousins, but I could see it maybe closer to the trade deadline, them making that decision. So I don't know if this game affects it as much.
It's tough with a quarterback, though. They got to learn a whole system, a whole offense. They can't just walk in. So, like, trading for him early is the move, right? So, if the Minnesota Vikings are 0-3 and you're the New York Jets, you got to make that move. Now, if the Jets win the football game versus New England, it could throw a monkey wrench in that. And we'll see how that all plays out this week. But I'm really interested to watch what happens. And I'm here for one of those teams being 0-3. I can't wait for it, actually. We want to get into one game quickly and for a reason. The Chicago Bears are 0-2. Justin Fields has complained about his coaching in the media. Matt Eberflus has always been the wrong hire there. I don't agree with that hire to begin with. I don't agree with Justin Fields blaming his coaching staff and the media either. But I want to get in this game. Bears are getting 12.5 points. They're playing against the Kansas City Chiefs. Do they cover, Brett?
No, and this game is going to be as hard to watch as that hug that Justin Fields as an offensive coordinator shared. It's going to be brutal. It's not going to be fun. I don't think they covered. I think the Chiefs win by 17. It's not. They're not even going to come close. Justin Fields and the Bears haven't shown me anything to show that they can hang with the Chiefs. Not only that, they haven't shown me anything that they can remain competitive against the Chiefs. So I don't think this game's going to be competitive. I'll treat it as such. They're going to win by over 2 touchdowns.
Okay.
I agree. There's no reason to think the Bears will get up for this game or even want to, hang with the Chiefs. I feel like it gets ugly early. We probably get more of this whole social media stuff after the game, more infighting in the locker room. I think Chicago's season is quickly going down the toilet.
Okay. Godfrey.
I'm back. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this, but I'll make it quick. I know we were short on time. Listen, a lot of people were out here blaming Justin Fields because they were waiting to blame him. Maybe he didn't handle that question correctly, but the kid's young. He's frustrated. You cannot sit here and honestly watch the game and not tell me that they had a horrible game plan. They were lining the kid up in shotgun and then doing 7-step drops on top of that. Why? How? Who? Of course he doesn't want to throw it out. He's almost damn near 15 yards out in the backfield before he throws the damn ball. Why? It's the worst game plan I've ever seen. They're not setting this kid up for success. They're setting him up for failure. I mean, when people, and I'm tired of like the racist comments I hear, but like, he's just a running back playing quarterback. You're racist if you're saying that. I mean, 100%. If you go back to college, and Gene will tell you, I'm not a big college guy. I did my research. Every pass competition he did with Trevor Lawrence, he beat him in. He passed in college. He can pass the ball. They have to design the offense around this kid to take advantage of his talents. And they are not doing that. The Bears are a bad organization, and they were going to ruin this kid. This is the best shot they've had at a quarterback in a long time. And so, do I think they're going to lose? Yes, I do think they're going to lose. I don't know what's going on with the defensive coordinator. He's gone. There's instability there. Maybe legit, that Matt Eberflus, we were asking who he was. We're like, all right, maybe this guy's got some Nick Sirianni energies coming from the same team. But no, man, like, what are they doing in Chicago? Like, you cannot tell me you're setting this kid up for success when you gave him 4 design runs total over the first 2 weeks. That's insane. 4 design runs for this kid total. He's not. I mean, if you look at Anthony Richardson, Jalen Hurts, even, how they helped him ascend, even Josh Allen, they helped try to put this kid in a position and develop him. Chicago is hurting this kid. They're doing everything so he won't be successful. So, yes, I don't even remember what the points are, but take the Chiefs.
Okay. Well, I have a pretty strong opinion here. Oh, man. I need to get my free Justin Fields shirt out of the closet.
I'll buy one.
I made one, a big X over the Bears. I think Matt Eberflus and the organization are really screwing them up. I'm going to bring up a date to you guys, and Kyle's going to laugh at this, and it's okay. Week 3, 2001, the 0-2 New England Patriots go into Indianapolis to play the 2-0 Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are 14-point favorites, and the Patriots win the football game 44-13. I'm not saying Justin Fields is going to be Tom Brady, but what I am saying is I'm going with the Bears to go into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs outright. Yeah, I said it. I think this is a perfect opportunity for them to get right as a whole. Their defensive coordinators doing crazy stuff, stepping away from the game of football. The Chicago Bears are on their last legs, and this is a perfect situation for the defending champs to overlook a bad football team.
Plus 570.
I'm telling you right now, I'm betting the Bears money line. I'm betting them plus 12.5. I think the Bears win this football game outright. I think it's a high-scoring game. I think Mahomes is right. I just think that Chiefs defense is, and I don't think they're ready for it. I think that the Chiefs defense will overlook this kid. I think they think they're back because of what they did versus Jacksonville. I don't. Give me the Bears to win the game outright at Kansas City and destroy a lot of your eliminator pools.
I like.
I hope that happens.
I like the 12.5. I will say that. So, yeah, take that money line and short it with the 12.5. I do like that spread. I know I said earlier I don't care what the spread is, but I'm not going to take them. I'm not going to say what Gene said, but Gene knows I love a good money line bet, so I'll be rooting for the Bears on that one. And I'll throw 50 on plus 570. Why not?
Carolina's starting Andy Dalton. That's Seattle. Dallas is going to destroy Arizona. We can kind of stay away from those games. Let's get into Sunday Night Football. How in the world Las Vegas has a Sunday night game is beyond me. The Pittsburgh Steelers at the Las Vegas Raiders. I'll take the Steelers in that one. Matt Canada is a terrible offensive coordinator, but George Pickens is going to roll. I like the Steelers in this one. I think their defense gets to Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo gets happy feet in that pocket. Give me the Steelers to win that one at Las Vegas Sunday Night Football.
I agree. I'll just keep it at that. I agree.
Yeah, I think Steelers pretty easily on this one.
Godfrey?
Yeah. Steelers are. I don't know, man. That's a letdown game. You got to go across. I think it's an ugly game. I think the Raiders aren't that great. I mean, man, I hate games like this, but I'll take the Steelers with the points.
I think it's like a 1.5 spread, but
2. But it's Kenny Pickett hasn't looked great, but is Matt Canada doing the same thing to him? That I don't know, man. There's just been that first game it was bad decisions he was making, and Matt Canada's not great, but can they get the run game going? Hey, George Pickens did do well, but he's not going to get a 71-yard TD reception all the time, on that busted coverage at the end. So, I mean, he's a great player, but we'll see. I mean, I'll be watching it because I'm a degenerate, but I don't know, man. It might be an ugly game. So,
before we get into the game of the week, the only game of the 2-2-0 teams, let's quickly ask a question. How much trouble are the Cincinnati Bengals in right now with Joe Burrow? They're playing at home versus the Los Angeles Rams this week. Aaron Donald, a rematch of Super Bowl just 2 years ago. Do you think the Bengals get it on track versus a bunch of sixth-round draft picks and that Los Angeles Rams defense? Or do you think Joe Burrow might sit and miss this game? I think that Joe Burrow needs to sit down and let that calf fully heal. I will say this: they played against the Browns and the Ravens are two very good defenses as a whole. This will be definitely a letdown as far as defense goes. They're going outside the division. I think Joe Cool gets it right and the Bengals win this one. But I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Burrow is too injured to play or leaves that game early with the calf injury. That's a very easy way to pop your Achilles is consistently playing on a bad calf. What are your thoughts on the Monday Night Football game between the Los Angeles Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals? The B-list game.
I have the Bengals. I mean, they're kind of my Super Bowl pick, so I kind of need them to turn it on right now. I would like to see maybe Joe Mixon get going because I think the Rams are like bottom 10 in the league against the run. So maybe that's a way to take the pressure off of Burrow because the last thing I'd want to see is Aaron Donald like bearing down on him and him having to make a quick move because, like you said, calf injuries lead to Achilles, and we don't need that with Joe Burrow. So hopefully they make some quick passing game to relieve some of that pressure. And Joe Mixon.
Cardi 3.
I think the Bengals turn it around this week. It'll all come down to can they keep the pass rush off of Joe Burrow and give him some time. I think they do. I think the Rams defense finally is going to get beat up a little bit this week. Now I do think it's going to be a competitive game, but I think the Bengals, if they don't win this week, they're going to seriously have to ask themselves a lot of questions going into week 4 here.
Godfrey.
You know, I didn't get to say it earlier, but a team that has shown better than I thought they would so far has been the Rams.
Yeah.
Okay? And that secondary stinks in Cincinnati. Stinks.
That's fair.
And I think I'm going for the upset here, and I'm taking the Rams. Take the money line, plus 130. Take the points. Joey B, is he ruled out yet, or it's still questionable?
No, he's questionable.
Day
to day he's listed.
Yeah, and I just the Rams have looked better than I thought. I thought they were going to be worse. They got this young kid, from BYU, same receiver coach as Cooper Kupp, actually. Puka, and he's actually Dana White's nephew. Believe that or not. No, I'm not shitting you.
I didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
Puka Nakua.
Yeah. So I'm going Rams.
Okay. Let's get into the game of the week. We got a couple minutes left. It's Monday night. The Thursday night game is just about to start, but let's get into the game of the week. Philadelphia Eagles, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2-0 versus 2-0. We talked about this on Birds Deep. We'll give it a little bit more in depth if you're looking for that. But as far as who you think is going to win this game on Monday Night Football, I will start being the resident Eagles fan in the room. I think the Philadelphia Eagles front four gets after Baker Mayfield, and the guy that holds the ball way too often. You have Josh Sweat, you have Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham. I think you see a lot of that, and I think that the Baker Mayfield turns the ball over too much. I think that Todd Bowles' defense slows the Philadelphia Eagles offense down. I really, truly believe that. They're not a defense that you can run against. They've never been a defense you can run against. I don't remember the last time a Todd Bowles defense allowed a team to average over 4 yards per carry for a season. It just doesn't happen. I got the Eagles in this one. I think they win the game 27-17. I think it's 27-10, and the Bucs get a late touchdown. I think that getting Bradbury back, Reed Blankenship back is going to really help that Eagles defense. Give me the Philadelphia Eagles in this one, 27-17, to end that Buccaneers 2-0 start. Kyle.
I think in this one, if the Bucs are going to have a chance, they're going to need to start really well, scoring their first drive, something like that. But I think the Eagles get this done. And it was a good point that you made about Mayfield likes to hold the ball. And I kind of saw that when New England played them. Like, if you hold it long enough, Carter's going to be there and those guys up front. So I do think they'll give Baker a lot of trouble. I'll take the Eagles as well.
I think this is a perfect crapshoot for the Buccaneers to get blown out. I think Baker holds onto the ball too long. You got the secondary to match up with the Buccaneers' top receivers, and I'm not really worried about the Buccaneers' run game. I think that front's going to hold the run game in check, and I think you have the perfect secondary to hold the receivers in check. So I think you're looking at just a horrid matchup for the Buccaneers, and I got this one. I think it's going to be a 27-17 game with. I think the Buccaneers will end up with that last second touchdown to make it closer than it seems, but I think the Eagles win, and I think they win convincingly.
Godfrey, I know your thoughts. Go ahead, share with the public.
27-13 Eagles. I just think I'm with Gene on this, the defensive line, and I think they have not played two goal offensive teams. I do have respect for the Bucks defense and that run game up the middle. I think you can expose them on the outside, and I think DeAndre Swift comes to the receiving party this week and has 60 yards receiving, maybe a touchdown. I think the Eagles get the screen game going, and it's gonna be a fun Monday night.
So before we wrap up, before we end this show, I want to ask you guys to give your quick, after 2 weeks, projections on who's going to win each division. So we'll go through each division real quick. I just want you to give me a team name on who you think is going to win the division. We'll start with the NFC East. I'm still staying with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Same here.
Same here.
Same.
Dallas, are you sure?
Yeah, same.
NFC, the NFC North. This is a fun division. Lions, Packers, Bears, Vikings. I got a crazy one for you guys. I've told you right now, I've never been on the Vikings, and I kind of tend to agree with Godfrey. I think the Lions organization has a lot of issues. Give me the Green Bay Packers, the Love Boat. I'll take the Packers in this one.
Same. Packers.
I'm gonna be different. I'm gonna take Minnesota. That's dependent upon them winning this week. I'll take Minnesota. Although I'm scared of Green Bay, but I'll go Minnesota.
I love it.
Yeah, I think with Jordan Love's emergence, I always said that if he emerges at least as a top 15 quarterback in the league, the Packers will have a real chance to win this division. He's been a lot better than advertised. He keeps this up. I think the Packers end up running away with this one.
Okay. He had a concerning stat real quick that I noticed, and I don't know if it's an outlier, but his completion percentage is about 56% so far through the season so far this year.
I will go to the NFC South next. I'm changing my pick. I had the Carolina Panthers, and I'm changing it to the New Orleans Saints.
Same. I had the Saints before, so I'm sticking with them.
I had the Saints as well, yeah.
I had the Saints as well, so I'll stay there.
NFC West, I think we all still are with the 49ers, right? No questions there?
I had the Seahawks. I'm going to stick with this. Oh man, I can't even. I'm going to stick. Yeah, I'm going to stick with I'm going to go to the Niners on this one. I'm going to change it there just because. I mean, I just don't have any faith in the Seahawks.
Okay, let's go to the AFC East. I can't believe I'm about to say this. I have the Miami Dolphins. I think the Miami Dolphins, if Tua stays healthy, that team is deadly. Give me the Dolphins. With Aaron Rodgers getting hurt, I had Aaron Rodgers winning that division, and with him getting hurt, I changed it immediately to the Dolphins. I'll take the Dolphins in this one.
I'll take the Dolphins too, and even if Tua gets hurt, I'll take the Dolphins because I think Michael White will be a capable backup in that system.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take the Dolphins.
I had Dolphins even with Rodgers in New York, so I'm sticking with them.
Okay, let's go to the AFC North. Man, this was a division I had the Bengals winning. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns. I still don't have faith in Baltimore. They haven't impressed me in either win. I'll go with the Cleveland Browns in this one. I think Deshaun Watson takes a step forward. And even with losing Nick Chubb, I know that sounds crazy. Give me the Browns.
Browns as well. I thought I was going to be on an island on that one, but Browns.
You know what? I'll take Baltimore. Baltimore's always been a regular season team. I think they do just enough to stay on top. I don't think they do very well in the playoffs. That's a different story, but I think Baltimore will win this division.
I had Bengals before this season, but I got to switch to Cleveland because I've been high on Cleveland as well. So Give me Cleveland in that division.
Let's go with the AFC South. I'm sticking with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I'm going with the Titans still.
Okay.
Yeah, I picked Jacksonville for this one before. I'm sticking with them.
Yeah, same here. I had Jags, so stick with them.
The Chiefs are going to win the AFC West. And it doesn't matter what they do this week, even if they lose to Justin Fields and they could be 1-2 and still first place in that division after this week, which is insanity to me.
Yeah. It's
Especially the
Isn't
best
that
team.
crazy? The Broncos are probably going to be 0-3. The Chargers could easily be 0-3, but even if they win, they'd be tied for division. And I don't think the Raiders win Sunday night. I think that the Chiefs could be 1-2 and in first place in the AFC West.
Yep.
No,
I'll
fair
take it.
enough.
Yeah.
All right, well, we got a football game going on. I apologize that we went 7 minutes past. Christian McCaffrey's already got 20 yards, and Jawan Jennings has got 24. Brock Purdy just made a huge play on 3rd and 8. Tune into that football game on Amazon Prime. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
Let Mr. Irrelevant cook.
Let him cook. Brock Purdy has got my apology, and my apology letter was already sent. He received it. He's accepted my apology. That's all I got to say. Guardy 3, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to watch this game with my friend who's a Giants fan, so it's going to be a fun one to watch, that's for sure.
Laugh at him.
Bring him a shot and a cigar and some tears and some like tissue. Hey, let things play out. Don't overreact to your team. For all you know, the Bears could rip off 6. Eagles fans, I don't know what's wrong with you guys. We're 2-0, but enjoy it. Enjoy football. And no more. And Gene talked about his last show. I cannot be down with fighting in the stands. Like, stop. And I really think what's going on is, listen, the NFL doesn't want to hear this, but alcohol is accessible. And then with the advent of sports gambling, I think you get people pissed off when they lose a bet and they're in person. They just drank. I'm all about gambling. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, it's not worth it. Don't fight someone in the stadium over a team that's never written you a goddamn check. They're not paying your bills. They're not buying you groceries. That's all I got.
All right, well, that's it for our show. I really have fun talking sports with you guys every week. I'm Gene Walsack. That's Kyle Edwards. That's Guardy 3. And Taking It Deep with D. Godfrey. And this is Sideline to Sideline, and we are signing out.